What's up, everyone? Welcome in to Enter the Jungle. It is officially official. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they signed on the dotted line, and they're making that Andrew Fox Miller money. Let's break it down right now on Enter the Jungle. And welcome in to Enter the Jungle. That's right, that Andrew Fox Miller money. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern right here on the YouTube channel, Cincinnati Bengals Talk, also weekly on FanDuel Sports Network. And boy, oh boy, I just have a feeling, Andrew, that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they're having a few garage beers. I think they might already be back in Miami. And if not, they're en route on the private jet that is probably stacked and packed with garage beer. Shout out to our sponsor, Garage Beer. But an historic day for the Cincinnati Bengals, March 18th, 2025, as T. Higgins, Jamar Chase sign huge contracts to keep them in stripes for the next 4 years for T. Higgins and 5 years for Jamar Chase.
I've never looked forward to a press conference probably more than I really have to think about it. There's been some really good ones. Joe Burrow's been out for a while. He's coming back. Let's see what he has to say. Sure. But Burrow, you kind of know what you're going to get. When you combine the two of them together, sitting together, my mind was racing. I was excited for it, and they delivered.
Yeah, I think so. And they usually do deliver. I thought it was interesting. We posted the entire thing here on our channel. And so check it out. It's one of the many reasons why you should check out Cincinnati Bengals Talk. But Jamar was eerily quiet. He was not talking his normal trash talking self. It was just calm, cool, composed, said a lot. And we're going to hear from him in just a second. We're going to hear from T. Higgins during this show as well. You're going to hear exactly what Jamar thinks of what Joe Burrow said about him and T. Higgins throughout the offseason during Super Bowl Radio Row in just a second. But I did think that he was extremely composed. He said it hadn't hit him yet. And I thought maybe you'd get a little trash talking out of Jamar, and it just wasn't there. He was calm, cool, collected, and made it clear how much T. Higgins meant to him.
I think it was a big help, him just putting out little information, having our back. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it was a big help, him just putting out little information, having our back. I think that's the biggest thing, especially coming from a quarterback. It's different if me and T vouching for somebody else before our quarterback to vouch for us. I think that's given us, a pathway to get us where we got here.
Did he tell you, did he go up to you before like the Super Bowl stuff and say, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say all kinds of great things and I'm going to put some pressure out there? Was that a conversation you guys all had about that was part of the plan?
Nah, it wasn't really no plan. You can't really plan for this, and we didn't really set up a plan until after the season, and then the plan it didn't always go to plan, so it's always bumps in the road. But I think we handled the situation well. We didn't do too much in the midst of it, not on the media. I think we handled it the right way. We all talked to each other, about this situation, period. So I feel like, we handled the situation the best way we could. I think it was.
You know what I think is interesting about that clip is, how he talked about the plan and how the plan didn't necessarily go their way.
Yeah.
This is an example of that, because I was not tossing to that and you just played it. I was tossing to you. I asked you a question and this man played the clip because he's clearly nervous about playing the clip, which I've understand. I've been on that other side of that. That is what Jamar Chase had to say about Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow made a huge impact. Jamar's willing to admit it. Obviously, T. Higgins said the same. And it does matter. I think the biggest takeaway from this, outside of the Bengals keeping really, really high-end players, which is what you want to do. If you're a Bengals fan watching this, there was a very little path to a championship that didn't involve keeping T. Higgins. And so you keep T. Higgins because he was the top free agent. So this idea that you can get rid of the top free agent on your roster and replace him with other free agents that aren't as good, that aren't necessarily in their prime, that aren't as important to your team as T. Higgins is, and I think he's the fourth best player on the roster. It didn't make any sense. And so Joe saw that. T clearly wanted to stay. And I think the plan part of it, you're right. Jamar, he mentioned the plan didn't necessarily always go to plan. It didn't always play out the way they thought, but man, it came close because they got these deals done, and it's March, Andrew. This isn't June. It's not training camp where you're putting together training camp highlights and I'm sweating through my shorts and all that. No. It is March. St. Patrick's Day just passed. As we're doing this show live on Cincinnati Bengals Talk, March Madness hasn't started, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are signed.
I do like that Jamar, whether he was downplaying it or probably just speaking facts, that no, it wasn't. I don't know. I think you get these ideas in your head that they're all talking together and they're really very, very actively sort of plotting what we ultimately saw with this extension between the two of them. But the reality is Joe kind of did all Joe had to do. He was very public, which is more than you would have expected heading into this offseason, certainly during this past season as well. And a bit of a mic drop. I mean, they all know what they're looking for. They all know that they're looking out for each other. What else needs to be said? I just thought it was interesting that it wasn't sort of this fantasy that I think a lot of fans kind of put out there of Joe really plotting and scheming and it's all elaborate. No. What you saw is what you got, and we see the end result.
Yeah, I think, well, I do think that there was some planning behind it, but I don't think it was like this. All right, well, I'm going to go on this show at Radio Row and put pressure here. And then
Exactly.
Joe was just answering the questions, but he put the pressure on the Bengals behind the scenes too. He made it very clear. Duke Tobin made it very clear at the NFL Combine. We'll talk more about Duke coming up in just a few minutes. But at the NFL Combine saying, I agree with everything our quarterback said. And you know why he should? Because all Joe said was keep your good players. The Bengals didn't go 9-8 last year because they had T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow on the roster. The reason they only won 9 games was because of guys 11 through 53 on their roster. They didn't have enough depth. The talent throughout the team wasn't there, but from a top of the roster standpoint, their star players played like stars. Why would you say take away one of those stars is going to get them a different result? I think that was extremely unrealistic going into free agency. And I think that getting these deals done was a need, quoting Joe Burrow. And it's really, it's one of those things where I think that, especially if you're watching us now, let's say it's Thursday, you're watching us on FanDuel Sports Network, and you're like, man, Jamar Chase, 4 years, $161 million with $112 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And he deserves every penny. He deserves every penny. I would have paid him more than that. I would have given him $41 million per instead of $40.25 million per, which you're like, oh, well, what's the difference? The point is where were the Bengals before Joe, T, and they came in this order, Joe, T, and Jamar got to town? Where were they? Because right now they're not only more interesting and more exciting, but they're much closer to a championship than at any point in the decade prior. And it's because of the star power at the top of this roster. So to keep that in town, it was a no-brainer for the Bengals, even if it did cost them a pretty penny, especially with Jamar. $112 million guaranteed is a lot of coin. That's that Andrew Fox Miller money I was talking about earlier.
Hey, and you know what? No matter how you feel about it, right now in this moment, March of 2025, March of 2026, certainly March of 2027, people will most likely be looking back, much like they are now with Burrow's deal, and going, whew, that was a pretty good deal. It's only going to look better with age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. It is what, like, Dak Prescott makes more than Joe Burrow. You just say it out loud, right? Like that's what it's going to be. Garrett Wilson is going to want to top Jamar. There's going to be other receivers that want to top Jamar, and that only bodes well for the Bengals, for a team that I think a year ago they didn't think T. Higgins would be on the roster right now. 2 years ago, certainly not. Even 6 months ago, I don't think they viewed it that way. They thought it was going in a certain direction. But T. Higgins made a decision, and that decision had a huge ripple effect on his future. We will discuss that, and we will hear from T coming up next. Welcome back to End of the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox-Miller. I'm James Rapien, and let's hear from T. Higgins in just a second, because T. Higgins, Andrew, I think there's so many layers to this. Like, obviously, Joe Burrow became the vocal leader behind everything from a public standpoint and putting public pressure. And I think he did that behind the scenes as well. I don't think it was just public, and then he was going and saying different things to the Bengals organization. He was very determined to use his power and to show, hey, we need these guys. Let's make sure we keep them. And then you have Jamar Chase, who clearly wants to be the highest paid receiver in football, was always going to become the highest paid receiver in football. It was a matter of when, not if. Didn't get done last year. And then you have T. Higgins, who was, if he had somehow found a way to get to free agency, Andrew, I think would have made more than people understand. I think he would have gotten close, if not to Justin Jefferson's contract, $35 million per year, because he would have had teams gushing over him in a crappy wide receiver draft, in a crappy free agent class for wide receivers. And instead of doing that, instead of trying to find a way, scratch, claw, force his way to free agency, he made a call during the season to switch agents, because he was represented by David Mulligetta. You know how David Mulligetta would have, what he would have done to get T out of town had they tagged him for a second straight time. I don't think there was any scenario where T. Higgins re-signs a long-term deal with the Bengals if David Mulligetta is his agent. By the way, this isn't me ripping David. I think David would say, no, we can get you more money elsewhere. Let's get you elsewhere. It's his job. That's fine. But T wanted to stay in Cincinnati. He switches agents to Rocky Arsenault, and that was a huge, huge factor and certainly impacted his future and helped get him the deal in Cincinnati. Here's what T. Higgins had to say about signing the contract and how important it was for Rocky Arsenault to represent him during these negotiations. What's going through your guys' mind right now?
A lot. I'm just excited. For me, it's been a long time, and it's finally here, and I'm just happy with this organization. So,
T, was there ever a moment or moments where you didn't think it was going to happen here? It wouldn't be say before us, you'd be elsewhere.
There's a lot of moments, but I never had any doubt that Rocky was going to get it done, and I never had any doubt that Katie was going, finally say we want you here, and just glad it happened, and I'm happy to be here.
Now that it is done, how big a factor was staying here in your decision to join Rocky, to sign with him and have him represent?
I feel like it played a big factor. Obviously, it helped, and at the end of the day, I made the decision, and it was the right decision for me.
It was the right decision for me. It's just huge decision. And that decision was made before Joe Burrow made the comments he did after Monday Night Football. Bengals beat the Cowboys. He just endorses T publicly, comes out of nowhere. 2 days later, I follow up because I wasn't in Dallas. And what does he say? T. Higgins is in need. I'd be very disappointed if we didn't keep him. It goes on and on about how important he is. All while this agent stuff is going on behind the scenes, this might not have been the perfect plan, but it came together very quickly. And by perfect, I mean Jamar Chase's words, saying that it didn't necessarily go exactly how they planned it. And they planned most of it in the offseason, but it felt like they planned it during the season, Andrew. And I think T. Higgins deserves a ton of credit because he did sacrifice to get to this point and to stay in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and maybe misreading things, but it seemed like to me in that clip, T seemed genuinely happy. And not because I just got paid genuinely happy. That's a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. But he seemed, this is all I wanted to do, and I'm just glad it came together the way I wanted it to go. There was just that energy to him. He seemed thrilled, and he even said very happy with the organization. So it says a lot. And by the way, you mentioned David Mulligetta. He's been sort of the bane of existence for fans with getting deals done with T and sort of the outlook of T's future over the last couple of seasons, or off seasons, I should say. But Okay, low key, they did manage to get a little deal with Osai. So I mean, two very monumental hurdles in a way, all related to T, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, you never know. That bridge could be getting together, and it should be, right? You never should not be able to negotiate with an agent and realistically get a deal with the good player that you have on your team. I will add this, and I thought that was really cool. T. Higgins was a huge AJ Green fan when he was growing up, which honestly makes me feel old thinking about that. And he's not that much younger than me, but he's 7 years younger than me, right? And so he's like, I grew up an AJ Green fan, and that's just like, what? Right. And so this quote stood out to me too. He said, I grew up a Bengals fan. To have an opportunity to sign a 4-year deal with a team that I grew up watching, that's a dream come true. And you're right. It's genuine. I know for a fact he has wanted to re-sign here for multiple years. And that's why he switched agents. He's like, all right, what do I got to do to stay? Do I have to link up with Jamar's agent? Fine. And then Jamar says, because Jamar got close to a deal a few weeks ago. And then it was like, hands off, get my guy T done. And it was really smart by Rocky Arsenault of Alliance Sports to negotiate it that way, to get deals done for both of his clients, to not let one impact the other, not prioritize one over the other. The goal was to get both done. They got both done. There's more from T, though, because when the announcement was made, it was, T. Higgins is the highest paid wide receiver 2 in the NFL. I don't think he liked that. In fact, I know he didn't like that. Find out what T thinks of that coming up next.
Pause for a second.
Welcome back to Enter the...
sorry, I was just getting some water. I'm sorry, man. I didn't.
This is what happens when we record live.
Yeah. If you give that little spiel for 2 sentences while I drink some water. If you want.
Get some water. Get some water, man. I'm gonna drink my vodka.
Hey everyone, we're just recording our segments for FanDuel. We're gonna address comments and questions here in a bit.
Yep, it'll be a quicker live than normal, than you're used to. That's why I'm trying to fly through these segments here so I can answer as many of your questions as possible here. We'll go for a few more minutes and then get rolling. All right.
Hang on, let me prep this clip and make sure I got it queued up in the right spot. All right, we're good. We're good. Hey, we're good.
This guy. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He is Andrew Fox Miller, and T. Higgins. Well, he's a very, 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 very rich man, but he is not a wide receiver too. It's not my words. It's Jamar Chase's words. Jamar Chase making a very clear correction when T. Higgins was referred to as a wide receiver 2 during their news conference on Tuesday.
A lot of guys will talk now like it's wide receiver 1-2 situation. It's a duo. Both you guys are wide receiver 1s. If you were to leave, you would have probably been a wide receiver 1. When you see it put out there that you're the highest paid wide receiver 2, how does that feel?
1A.
You're saying what's put out
I'm
there.
fixing it. 1A.
Yes, sir.
Bro, I don't even look at it like that. You know what I mean? I kind of wish they wouldn't have put it out there like that. So, because now that's why everybody's saying I'm the highest paid too. No, let's just say I'm at a place where, they value me and, they respect me, and I'm a good player here. So let's just say that. And that's not the highest receiver too or anything like that. You know what I mean? So let's just say he's another great receiver, Bengals receiver that, that puts in the work and got his head down and just grinds.
I love it. You know that's speaking to me. The puts in the work, he's got his head down, just grinds. But I'm going to give T his flowers here. He's wide receiver 1. Let's be honest. Quarterbacks don't go on 52,000 shows and answer every single question, make it clear that a wide receiver 2 is a need. He's not a wide receiver 2. He's a wide receiver 1. He was a wide receiver 1 in college. He was a wide receiver 1 for the Bengals as a rookie. And he's a wide receiver 1 now. The Bengals are a pass-first team. He means as much to this team as Jamar, like in a lot of ways as Jamar. And I think that's what's exciting for me about this deal is I think the best of what T has to bring as a football player is about to happen. I don't think we've seen it yet. I think he's stronger than ever. I think he's bigger than ever. I think he's entering his prime. We saw it a lot last year. Played in 12 games. You get that up to like 14 games. You're going to see a T. Higgins that is one of those high-end top 10 to 12 receivers in the NFL year in and year out. And that's why I like this deal, because I think realistically, had they not signed him and he had gone elsewhere, T. Higgins' best years would be played in another uniform. And that's painful if you're a Bengals fan to see that. That's not going to happen with T. Higgins now. Now T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are likely going to go into the Ring of Honor one day. That's what these two contracts mean. It really changes. Instead of being a really good player for a rookie contract, now T. Higgins is going to be part of the fabric of Bengals history for essentially a decade. And that's he's going to be one of the greats in Bengals history when it's all said and done.
Yeah, like you said, Joe Burrow wasn't fighting for a wide receiver 2 as a need. Well, he was fighting for T as a need, but he was fighting for a player, to your point, that is playing as a wide receiver 1. Jamar knows he plays as a wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking about T, of course. Jamar knows T plays as a wide receiver 1 because T being on the field, being a wide receiver 1, makes Jamar's life so much easier. It's a big reason Jamar really wanted T to come back, aside from, of course, their bond, their friendship. So yes, this is, you mentioned Ring of Honor. That was one of the first thoughts I had as I saw the two of them talking during that news conference, was like, this right here. Like, we will look back at this moment. This will be played, and they'll have photographs of them walking off the plane together to sign these extensions. Something they will be played together, I think, as the legacy of this era of Bengals football goes on, for sure.
Yeah, and that's what should be. When you draft in back-to-back drafts, and I get it, the Bengals haven't been the best drafting team. But yeah, taking Joe Burrow was a no-brainer. The T. Higgins pick, there weren't a lot of people talking about T. Higgins going into that day 2. They were talking about there was an offensive lineman, I forget his name, and then it was Denzel Mims. And the Bengals took T. Higgins. And obviously it felt like a no-brainer. Shortly after that, you could see the potential as a rookie. And then the following year, there were a lot of people that said Penei Sewell. A lot of people. And not that would have been the wrong pick, but it wasn't the right pick. Jamar was the right pick. The Bengals got it right. They rewarded their guys with long-term contracts. And Duke Tobin had the message of all messages for the rest of the NFL. I love it. Find out what Duke Tobin had to say about the Bengals deals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins coming up next. You need to drink water, vodka, or something?
No.
Before we finish
off.
off.
I didn't know vodka.
You sure
was
you're
an
okay?
option. I didn't know that.
You sure you're all right?
I could get some garage beer, but I'd have to go up to the fridge.
Good Lord. Oh, yeah.
My gosh.
Too far. Going to the fridge.
Last segment, everyone. We're recording last segment. It's only several minutes long, and then whatever time we have left, we'll address a few comments and questions.
Good Lord, man.
Unbelievable. Now I'm going to be dehydrated because I don't want to be abused by you verbally.
Abused.
You seeing this? Talking
Soft.
about me getting Jamar and T getting Andrew Fox Miller kind of money.
Hey, you got
not enough.
You got my boy Temu Higgins ready?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Let me pull that up. I'll do an image file.
See.
Don't you worry, he's coming.
Unprepared. You'd be lost in the Bengals offense. Joe would never throw you the ball.
All right. Yeah,
there we go. All right.
We're ready. Let's go.
Just teased everybody.
I know. I uploaded and automatically loaded. We're good.
That's all right. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern on the YouTube channel Cincinnati Bengals Talk, weekly on FanDuel Sports Network. We're part of the Big Play Network and brought to you by Garage Beer. And let's get to the message of all messages. So 2 years ago, when trade rumors were flying all over and it was the Bengals should trade T. Higgins right now, Duke Tobin stepped up to the podium in Indianapolis and says, go get your own receiver. And it was pretty much that simple. There was a little more to it, but go find your own receiver. And it was one of those things where he made it clear they were not trading T. Higgins. And then last month at the Combine, I said, has the tone changed? Because the temperature publicly certainly changed around T. And Duke was like, no, I've been wanting to pay T for years. Well, Duke got his wish this week and had a message for everyone. He said, Jamar and T are a big part of that identity. We are known for our explosive, high-scoring offense. They earned these extensions with their abilities and promise for the future. We have our receivers. The rest of the league can go find their own. I love it, Andrew. I love the shot again, just to everyone, because almost every team has photoshopped T. Higgins in their uniform, including our good buddies up north, Cleveland Browns fans with Timu Higgins. There we go. Let's take a look at Timu Higgins.
Oh, yeah.
Who just unbelievable. The Bengals can't pay T. Higgins. Oh, no, they can. Not only can they did. Like, by the way, like we said they would. Like 2 months ago, a month ago, that was always the plan. So Timu Higgins, enjoy Cleveland. T. Higgins, well, you're in Cincinnati for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and if you're listening to the audio version of this, just know that we are looking at an AI-generated T. Higgins from Twitter, and it is very much like a no, honey. We have our own T. Higgins at home, and it's this Timu Higgins. This is basically what Duke Tobin was saying. It was like, hey, go get your own.
If there was an AI-generated alien version of T. Higgins in Men in Black that was actually an alien but was trying to look like T. Higgins and pretend to be T. Higgins, well, that would be it. And I might have aged myself. How many people do you think watching have not seen Men in Black or listening? There could be a decent amount. Regardless, glad that T and Jamar are here to stay. Glad that you took the time to watch us on this Tuesday night. That's going to do it for us. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Enter the Jungle.
Hey,
all
everybody.
Right, drink your vodka now. Good
My
Lord.
vodka.
Your vodka.
People that weren't listening at the break that we were recording segments probably think we're like on a hot mic right now.
Oh, no, this is just what we do.
I know.
This is just what we do. Andrew's unprepared, and I give him crap for it.
I'm unprepared.
Dude, how are you going to? I mean, I saved, it's fine, and I used to do this to Mo all the time, but like, you're not really listening. You're worried about firing the thing. I toss to you, and you just play.
That's a perfect comparison. Very, very. Oh yeah, that makes sense because you had cameras on you live in real time, and you had to sit here and navigate clips. And come on,
he's just like,
it's like producer.
I'll hit the button.
Producer, engineer, doing tech work here. Equipment. My gosh,
equipment. Your equipment. Simplify your equipment. Get my equipment. My equipment's simple.
Yeah, it's real simple.
My equipment is simple. All right.
Why am I having a trouble with this browser view? I'm trying to see all the comments here, everybody.
Filthy heathens. We're not drinking. This is water. Neither of us are drinking vodka, actually. And I have garage beer in my fridge.
Yeah, if I was drinking vodka, just drink vodka. Why would I put it in a water bottle?
I'm not drinking on the job. He was like serious about the garage beer. I couldn't fathom wasting time on another team's live streams, to be honest, but you do. Oh, so someone's jumping in. Whatever. Look, if anyone honestly, if anyone from any other team is down, like a fan is like, oh, I can't believe you paid Jamar and T, they're idiots. Every team in the NFL in the Bengals position would pay Jamar and T. Every single one. Every single one. And by the way, the Chiefs would have paid Tyreek if he had the same attitude as Jamar and T. It's not like they were like, oh, well, we don't want to build around this wide receiver. They didn't want to build around that personality, and they had Chris Jones, and they said, all right, well, I want to pay Chris Jones. I want to pay Travis Kelce. And then they went and used that money that they used on Tyreek. They used that on some offensive line help. There weren't huge offensive linemen that you could have used in this draft, and the Bengals aren't paying a Chris Jones. So there's definitely some differences there, because a lot of people use that, and it's like, not really. And the Chiefs now would love to have T. Higgins. Love it.
Yeah, I'm seeing seeing the chat here. Oh, we had Ocho Cinco. Now we have Uno Cinco.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
That is pretty good. What's funny is like Jamar's so different. Like you can't compare him to, like, there's no Bengals receiver in history that's like that. Obviously with T, you could compare him to AJ. I think T's got some AJ Brown to him as well. Not as thick, obviously, but he's got some of that to him. And so, yeah, a solid event. I really do think he's going to play his best ball over these 4 years, and is hitting his prime right now.
Let's address a few questions. I know we got a bit of a hard stop here.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're going to bounce. Normally on these lives we go longer, and we're going to have you covered all week long. But if you're looking for more Bengals, make sure you check out T and Jamar, the 30-minute news conference. We posted it. The audio's updated. Andrew made it sound really darn good as well. So, well, what's the best outlook on available?
That's asked. I'll repeat the question for those listening.
They're
What's the
breaking
outlook
my
on
heart.
available guards?
Yeah, they're breaking my heart. I want 2 guards. I want 2 guards. I want
You
2
wanted
guards to
2
stand
guards. You
outside.
wanted 2 guards.
Oh, I still.
I know. Of course, still, but I mean, it's starting to feel like you'll be happy to have.
Well,
one
yeah,
at
they're
this
gonna.
point.
I will not be happy.
I know. Happier than 0 is all I'm saying.
All right. There is no glass half full when you're trying to pursue a championship. Just to be clear. But
I feel like this is how you present, how you operate things in general, even with this channel. It's like, hey, I've got a video, and be like, oh, you're lucky I didn't give you 3. So what's the difference? I'm just putting it back on you.
I guess I don't know what championship we're winning, but the point is if you're going to protect the franchise, you need some guard help. So it's a good question. I would be in on Brandon Scherf. Tevin Jenkins completed his visit to Seattle. I don't see anything on him. I would be surprised if they go back down that path for Jenkins, but they should. I mean, Tevin Jenkins makes sense. I would put him at left guard, and then I would sign Brandon Scherf for right guard. If Brandon Scherf isn't interested, there are other guys as well. Like, I would add 2 veterans, and I would not let Cordell Volson get in the way of adding 2 veterans. He's got a $3 million cap hit. Do that with what you want. Now, I would prefer Cordell Volson on the team as a backup. Historically, the Bengals don't usually invest $3 million cap hits in backup guards. And so that's why I would say, okay, well, instead of having him compete with Cody Ford and a rookie, go get a proven guy. And if you have to cut him and that makes you feel better, I wouldn't cut him. But if you have to cut him, then do it, because it's all about having the best 5 out there. So I would sign 2 guards. I think they'll sign 1. Will Hernandez is another one that I could see them going after. But Brandon Scherf is the one that makes a ton of sense at right guard. Quality pass protector, former All-Pro, still getting it done at a really high level, has played in 51 games over the past 3 seasons. Do the math there. That's every single game, all 17 in 3 straight years. I'd go after Brandon Scherf. That would be one of the guys I would sign.
Kieran asks, Bengals, are they going to play a game in Madrid?
Joe Burrow certainly wants that to happen. I don't know. That's the rumor for sure. And if it does happen, it'll be fun. It'll be fun watching from here. I'm not sure I'm making that trip. I would, but it would be a juggling act with the fam, Andrew. So it'll probably just be one that I'm taking in from the lovely Cincinnati Bengals Talk Studios.
Let's see here. How about?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe I'll take the Cincinnati Bengals Talk Mobile all the way down there. You think it'll get there?
To Madrid?
I had the top off the other day. I meant to take a picture of it. It was pretty fun. Pretty fun.
If I can document that, then yes, you can. I think you can make it.
The drive down.
How about? There's a lot of names being thrown on from a free agency standpoint, from a draft standpoint. However,
there's not going to be a lot of names I say no to. They need to add talent.
Carnes is referring to the tweet that we posted with Timu Higgins. We have T Higgins at home. T Higgins was it Nick Carnes? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, Nikki.
What about defensive ends, defensive tackles? I mean, of course, I think they should sign them, but at this point, and maybe this ties into what I'm saying, James, with you're going to take 1 guard and you're going to be happy because it's not 0. At this point, it's like, I need a guard. I can't even think right now about, I mean, I would love defensive tackles, defensive end, but they technically re-signed some guys. I know it doesn't feel like we're adding and we aren't, but
yeah. Here's what I would do.
Draft is going to be their focus there.
And this is what they should do, because they'll always go into the drafts with like a huge need, like 1 guard spot or defensive line. You could completely round out the Bengals roster and feel really good about their defensive line with 2 additions. You signed Calais Campbell at defensive tackle, really good against the run, had 5 sacks last year for Miami, played in all 17 games, had over 50 tackles, like really good rotational piece. And he's 38. He's 38 years old and still playing at a high level. Sign him. And then the other one is Zadarius Smith. He's not a great run defender. Who cares? You need pass rush on passing downs. Zadarius Smith had 9 sacks last year. He's a former Pro Bowler, going to be 33 years old. but can still get it done. Like those two guys, along with what they have in their defensive line already, assuming you work things out with Trey, no brainer there. Obviously, you got to work things out with Trey. I feel good about their defensive line room with no rookies. And it opens up the draft. It doesn't mean you can't take a defensive lineman, but you certainly don't have to. And then at guard, that's it. So I would sign 2 defensive linemen, 2 guards, open up the draft board. Yeah, maybe you take a tackle, turn him to a guard in the draft if you want to, or a tackle that could be your swing tackle. You could take a defensive lineman easily, but you could also go with a safety at pick 17, or a linebacker at pick 17, or a tight end at pick 17, or if Ashton Genty gets there and everyone's going to say, oh, hell no, you can't do it. Look, if the 4th best player on the Bengals board is there, I don't care what position it is, they should probably take him. Unless the 5th best guy is there and it's at a position that they desperately need. And that's not going to happen at pick 17. I want them to be in a position to go best player available. And so I would sign those guys. Will they? I'd be surprised if they signed 2 guards and 2 defensive linemen above 30. But if you're in win now mode, who the hell cares how old they are? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to obviously be talking about the draft in the weeks to come, and really free agency, if assuming they're going to remain active in like phase 17 of free agency, whatever we're in at this point. But I think ultimately it feels like, James, you're not going to get your wish, or what anyone should wish for, which is exactly that. Have you put yourself in a position where you're not going after position, you're going after player? It feels increasingly unlikely that they will be in that position come the end of April, but we'll see. And speaking of that, Tevin Jenkins, Logan asks, are we still in on him? I know he was supposed to have visited Seattle. There's no record of that happening. Did that happen?
No, it did happen today. Yeah. So it showed up on the wire today. So he must have got to Seattle late last night. And then the official visit was today, which is all. And hey, travel plans get delayed. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase were a little delayed and they were on a damn private jet. So things happen. But he hasn't signed anywhere. And so I would be in on him. You're talking about a 27-year-old entering his 2nd contract, former 2nd-round pick, 1st-round talent, really good run blocker, got some nastiness to him, has had some health issues. And if you're Tevin Jenkins, this is exactly where you want to come. Honestly, it's exactly where you want to come. You can work with a technician like Scott Peters. You can be in a line room with Orlando Brown Jr. and work with him. I mean, I would put him on the left side, and it's him, Orlando, and Ted. Like, in the run game, just nasty. And then you could still go get Sheriff on the right side. So I would still be in on Tevin Jenkins. I'm not sure the Bengals are completely out, but unless he's willing to take whatever they offered him. They did make him an offer last week. I'm not sure that they're going to bend what they offered, especially at this point.
James, you're being asked, do you feel better now that we have signings, as in, I assume, Jamar and T? Now that this is done, do you feel better now?
I mean, they're 2 big offseason hurdles, but they weren't the free agent hurdles. They still need to get some stuff done. Still need to improve the roster. These guys were here last year.
It does feel like we're in a weak lag.
I agree.
Some may argue a longer leg than that. I'm not sure what this comment is. Imagine the extra time not answering T questions. Maybe he's referring to not focusing on the topic, which is Jamar and T. Where this is consider this an epilogue of sorts. I mean, we covered the topic, but we'll certainly address a few. Let's do 1 or 2 more.
We got 2 minutes, Andrew.
Yep, I hear you. Let's go with. How about, I'm going to get rid of some Tevin Jenkins since we covered him. Mm-hmm. This has been floating around. Mike Hilton's still out there. Do you ever think about this? Or is it kind of, hey, I think it's just new defensive coordinator?
I mean, that's the problem. Of course I want Mike Hilton in my locker room. Guy who can tackle, guy who can make plays, guy who brings energy, guy who works his tail off. Like, yeah, there's always room for Mike Hilton. Absolutely. On my team, always. I think he'll get
great
signed
in the locker room too. Like with the interviews.
Yeah. Great in general. Love Mike. Hope he's back. But I want what's best for him, like at this stage. Like I want him to go get his bag. And so hopefully he gets a bag as tall as him. Hopefully he sees that. All right, 1 or 2 more.
If he sees it, come talk with us, Mike. We'll see how things are going.
Sorry, guys, but we're cutting this one shorter than normal.
What Benny asks, when is Pratt being cut? In other words, what is Pratt's future at this point? Where do we stand with Jermaine Pratt?
Still going to get cut. If they don't find a trade partner, they'll cut him. They don't need to cut him yet. There's just a reminder, like they could draft a linebacker and then cut him after that. A reminder, Andy Dalton was on this roster until like 2 days after they drafted Joe Burrow. And then they cut Andy. Like they want to make sure they have the replacement in place. And now they may feel like, all right, well, we need this cap space now. We're signing a guard. Now we're going to do it. That's fine if they want to open up that space, but they're not going to just cut him now when they could get something for him via trade. I think that's how they're viewing it right now.
Let's leave with a little draft teaser. Who do you think has the higher chance that the Bengals, a higher chance that will, I'm reading it as it's written, but my brain, who do you think has the higher chance of the Bengals drafting? Is it James Pierce or Walter Nolan?
I just want to listen to you read.
You want me to read it verbatim? James, who do you think has the higher chance that will Bengals draft James Pierce Jr. or Walter Nolan?
Don't make fun of the person.
I'm not making fun of you. You were making fun of me. I'll read it verbatim.
I get typos happening. Reading.
Like I just, this is why I'm it's more a knock on me stumbling through trying to read it. Like I know what it's asking, but I'm reading it as it is, and it's just not working for me.
Yeah. I think that the Bengals, I'm thinking here a little bit more. I would lean, at least today, Walter Nolan. I think when you look at their defensive front, they could say, oh man, we're Walter Nolan away from really being a complete unit. And in James Pierce Jr., I think they're going to worry about the physicality of the AFC North. And when these big offensive linemen get their hands on him and they wash him out, will he be able to make the impact? This isn't the finesse AFC West. And I know I get it. It's NFL football is NFL football, but the Bengals do think that way to a degree. And so I do wonder that. It's still early in the draft process for me. I obviously know who those guys are. I've looked at them some. I don't have a great feel yet for what I would do, what they would do, anything like that. That process is certainly starting though. But thank you guys. Thanks for thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it. This was fun. These were two deals that needed to get done. I'm glad they got done, and we're going to be around. We'll be doing lives. We'll be doing I like the live chat rhythm that we've gotten into. I think Andrew does too, so we'll continue that and make that much more regular. So please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, follow wherever you get your podcast. So if you're just a YouTube watcher, check us out on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify as well. And for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.